All right, so welcome everyone to the Herpes podcast, episode 4. Today we are joined by my math teacher, Mr. Shortt, and we have Graham as well, a good friend of mine and a former YouTuber himself. I've been trying to get Mr. Shortt on for a while. He's probably one of my top teachers of all time.
That's good. He didn't say top. He said one of the top 700 that I've had since the beginning of my life in kindergarten. But he does make funny pictures when he was playing volleyball. If you see that, it is a weird picture, but whatever.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Graham, you got anything to say?
Just hello, and it's an honor to be on the podcast.
All right.
Yes, it is indeed.
All right. So I think the first topic I have lined up is all of your friendly neighborhood communition.
It's true.
So
might be the only topic we get to because there's I'm sure plenty to get to. My boy Communition.
All right. So Cameron, last time we had him on the podcast was not in fact episode 3. It was our unreleased version of episode 4 where he came on and was
unedited.
Inebriated, and so we decided not to upload that because there were some offensive words that flew around. But
even more than normal for my boy Communition.
Yeah, Communition came on last time and was doing that. So yeah, Mr. Shortt had Communition in his class.
I did.
And do you recall any stories of?
Oh wow, a few. I was present for his first time he got caught with nicotine at school, and also the second and third, and I think I missed the fourth, but I think I was back in for the fifth time he got caught with, and that was the first semester of his freshman year. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but he couldn't learn to not bring nicotine on school premises, so he spent some time in Mr. Collins' office in his early years, but for some reason I still like him. I'm not 100% sure, but
well, Cameron has a certain charm to him.
He does.
I mean, he's not a bad dude. He just kind of gets himself into bad stuff. He's nice, if anything.
He is.
Graham, have you had any interactions with Cammy?
Well, I was just hanging out one night, and I get this
down by the gas station. Where were you hanging out at?
And I was hanging out at my house, sitting there chilling, watching some Golf Channel, and I get this Snapchat. It says Communition. I was like, oh no. It was like 3 or 4 Snapchats in a row. And it was memes. It was sending me memes. And I was like, what in the world?
Way worse, couldn't it?
Oh yeah, it was pretty funny. We talked for a few minutes, and yeah.
I think Communition's current Snapchat is White Pride Boy, according to the end of his YouTube videos and stuff.
I think he got a new one actually.
Mr. Shortt, can you tell the story about that one video of Communitions that isn't up anymore with the hat and whatever?
Oh dear. Yeah, that was of course I was also present, not to mention his first few times of getting caught with nicotine, but also for the beginning of his social media career, I believe, on YouTube with his early channel. He made some questionable decisions with content, but they were there for a while, and we actively watched them, not as a class, but Blevins and myself watched them in private, mostly on mute because of the language. But he I think the goal, if I remember correctly, was to put an entire can of Skull in his mouth at once, and he succeeded and failed at the same time. He got it in there, but much like the Cowboy Coffee Chew video, he proceeded to vomit it out. But that was my favorite part of that video was somebody in the back. Cameron's probably 13, 14 at this point in his life, and somebody in the background yells, I think grandmother, grandfather, some adult yells, and he instantly goes into panic mode of trying to get rid of it. And as he raises back up, if you don't know, our boy Cameron has an above average size head, and so as he raises back up, the back of his hat was Velcro, and literally like one strand of Velcro was all that was buttoned, and the hat was still snug. So that was I've watched that at least 10 times on slow, just to see that hat hanging on for dear life. But I guess that was the moment I realized I like Cameron. I'm still, again, not sure why, but I do. So.
His current video with the pepper spray, Mr. Shortt and I have watched a few times. And we did it on slow motion once and found that as soon as the pepper spray hit his face, his first reaction was to spit, and you know that was.
If you're out there in the internet land and you've not watched that video on slow, you really need to do so, just to make sure you see the one spittle land on his chin as he realizes he's in deep trouble. That's my favorite part of that video. It's good.
Oh yeah. I couldn't get the part where he why he did it with his glasses on.
That's true.
I mean, that's just it don't make any sense.
It's gonna stay on there forever now.
You could go deep into that discussion of why did he wear glasses? Because I mean, if it blocks the pepper spray, then your video is not going to be great.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, which obviously if you've seen the video it didn't, why did you wear the glasses?
Yeah.
Like I don't. So
Yeah.
It was good though. I think it may have just been he's used to having glasses.
You address it almost as if it's some philosophical thing.
That's right. It is. I can make a mountain out of a molehill. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, a good topic of conversation because you brought him up already. Coach Blevins is a teacher that is Mr. Shortt's friend, I guess, his partner in crime. Every time that he walks into the class, we're actually in Mr. Shortt's class right now.
That's true.
Every time he walks into the class, like the entire class in unison will just stop, talking loudly because we're obnoxious, and just be like, yeah.
It's like that, but louder and with 30 kids yelling it.
Yeah, and he just looks. He looks at us, and he just kind of continues with his day, and
It's kind of a mutual friend of ours used to do that, and nobody's really sure why he used to do it, but it's kind of one of those things that, like, you probably like the name of this podcast, that you really don't know why it just is, and it kind of comes from something, and it's not worth it. But that's what we do when we greet each other. And so now it's caught on. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of noticed early in the year that they would always do some weird pose and stop everything that they were doing. Just
there's a great. I'll a quick Coach Blevins story if I may. The reason for the weird poses, and I've kind of caught them. Apparently, they're like a cold. Like you can catch Coach Blevins' mannerisms. I didn't mean to spit his water out. But early in Coach Blevins' career, he was not in my class. He was with an English teacher, and she's a cool lady. But he was in the back of the room, and she was teaching, and as she was teaching, Coach Blevins just he does some moves with his hands at times, and we're not real sure why he does them, but he does them. And so, midstream of the lady teaching, she kind of stops and goes, "Is there something wrong? Is there did I say something wrong?" And Coach Blevins looking around what? What are you talking about? And so she thought that he was saying that she was doing wrong stuff by making his mannerisms, and so we make fun of him for that. And then I caught them, and now I do weird mannerisms as I talk too. So it's weird.
Communication must have picked those up too.
Yeah. You've seen Cameron's videos?
Yes, he does. He does an abbreviated Tyrannosaurus Rex version of him. So I don't know. He's just. He doesn't have short arms, but he kind of looks like he does.
I mean, I guess he feels the need to kind of put him in the center of the camera.
His comfort zone.
He kind of talks with his hands.
One day, ammunition is going to be famous. We're not sure if it's going to be for good reasons or bad reasons. We're all rooting for good. But
today's his last day. Actually, he's getting homeschooled next year, so he's not going to be here from this day forward.
If you've known Cameron as long as I have, I'm rooting for that to not be true. It may, but I'm rooting for him to reconsider at some point. So,
Mr. Shortt's favorite quote of the podcast, he's only seen the Ammunition episode, I believe, and he tells me that his favorite quote from that episode was me calling Cameron a living meme.
That's true.
And, And he said, I always said he's like a cartoon character.
Yes, that's the old person with that didn't even know how to pronounce meme at one point in his life. that's my version of Cameron Bennett.
Yeah.
Just a walking, talking cartoon.
I mean, Cameron, Mr. Shortt drives mine and Cameron's bus, and when Cameron gets off the bus, he walks between buses and then cuts just completely across the road next to a crosswalk, but not at the crosswalk.
Not through the crosswalk.
And then just proceeds to walk down the middle of the road.
One of my favorite things about Cameron, he no matter where I drop him off at, He literally goes where he's not supposed to. It's kind of a metaphor for his life, I think. But he'll figure it out one day.
When we come up to the high school in the mornings, he normally just drops us off like in front of the sidewalk that leads directly to the door, and he goes through the grass.
Through the grass, which is actually longer than it should be, probably.
It takes longer, I spoke to him today about getting a hookup on some of his merch. He says his hoodies are just $15 right now. So.
That's good. That's a good deal. At one point they were like 40, and
I mean, that's like hoodie price, but for like a real famous person,
right?
You know? Like, I mean, Cameron's getting there though.
He's there. He'll be there. Just give him time.
He met Upchurch according to what he told me.
I'm not sure who that is.
No,
but
he hasn't met Upchurch, but he says
he's
that.
Talked back and forth.
Yeah, he's talked to Upchurch.
It's like the country rapper guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody screams country rapper, it's Cameron.
Yeah, I mean, there was a period of time where he would just walk in, and before he sat down in the cafeteria in the mornings, he would just be like, "Hey, everyone," and then just sit down. And like eventually the principal put a stop to that. But there was one of those days he walked in and went, "Hey, everyone, I just wanted to let you know Upchurch's new album's out today."
That was it.
Then he just went and sat down. Yeah. Living man, like I said.
I think Cameron's awesome because, I mean, he just he does his own thing and he's himself. You know, he walks his own way, and you know, he's just awesome. Don't care what anybody thinks about him. And
we had mock graduation the other day. You know, for the seniors. Year's about over, so we had mock graduation. We were all there. Well, there was one kid who was getting. Like he was in the finals.
Prestigious award. It's kind of like a Heisman or something.
Very prestigious award. And Daryl Green, the football player, was there. And Cameron was making some racist comments towards him. And they actually took Cameron out. I mean, I look back and with not very surprised. And I was like, you know, he probably just had dip or something. But no, apparently when he walked out, he said things such as, "Now introducing your host, Steve Harvey." And, you know,
Cameron's, that's what keeps me from loving Cameron. That's why I just like him. He says some questionable things sometimes that I don't even think he believes most of it. It's just more to get a rile than anything. But
Daryl Green's appearance was interesting.
Very interesting. These guys can't, and probably anybody that's going to be listening to this podcast probably doesn't appreciate who Daryl Green was. I kind of grew up, obviously, as probably more of a sports fan, or at least as much of a sports fan as these guys, but he was a big deal. Ben's probably not.
Sports fan.
Ben likes sports, like not
esports.
Yeah, esports. There you go. Like races on Twitter. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up at this point. Graham likes sports a little bit. That's the bell. I don't know if you guys heard the bell, but it's not great. That was it though.
Our bell is pretty bad. Like when you first get here, it kind of hurts your ears, but after so long, it stops. I feel like they damaged our hearing. I think.
Yeah. I remember when we first moved into this building, that went off, and somebody was like, "Oh my goodness!" And they were like, "The other options are worse," and I was like, "Prove it."
It's like
it couldn't be.
It's like a phone call of like an old school bell ringing.
Noted.
And that's really it's really bit crushed and weird. It's strange.
Yeah.
When I first heard it, I was like, that can't be the actual bell. I was like, there's no way that's the actual bell.
Like, when I first heard that, I was like, I'm going to have to hear that on a daily basis, multiple times. I'm going to die before I graduate. But now we're at the end of my freshman year, so I made
3 to go.
A quarter of the way through.
1 down, 3 to go. That's good. See, who says you don't use math in real life?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Mr. Short, can you give your explanation as to what you do when people ask you when we're going to use math in real life?
Yeah, this is my favorite. I was kind of hoping we would get to this, but inevitably, multiple times per day, like somebody will be like, they always start with, I don't know why they start with clearing up. When are we going to use this in real life? When am I going to use math in real life? And so I always respond with, right now. This is real life. And then they're like, no. That's my student voice. No, you know what I mean, like in the future. And then I respond with, tomorrow. We're gonna use this tomorrow. That's the future. And they're like, you know, when I graduate. And then I respond with, you're not going to, if you don't learn this math. and then I say something about living in a van down by the river, and then we show the Chris Farley clip, even with its drug references. But that's good. That's the short answer though is you're probably not going to use algebra in real life, but
Math's a good thing to have. It really is.
It's a good thing.
Well, but past
Miss Moore would frown upon that comment, wouldn't she? She was not.
Past 6th grade, it becomes kind of pointless, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe even earlier than that
because,
for a lot of our friends.
I mean, I think you have a good enough level of math to do something that doesn't specialize in math at like 6th grade. You know, you can add, subtract, multiply, divide. You can do some kind of complex stuff. And
balance your checkbook. Like that's something adults say. Like you need to be able to balance your check. Well, no, you don't. You just log into bankofamerica.com and like I don't know. That was a plug for our sponsor, Bank of America. They're actually not our sponsor.
Always plug. It's every day.
If Bank of America sponsored us, we'd be up there.
Shout out to Arctic Cups as well.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking of something serious there, but I don't know.
Slope man.
Slope man. Yeah, slope man.
Oh, that's one of our topics actually.
Yeah, we need to. I don't know. It's the bigger deal to us three, or at least one of us, than anybody else. It's just
I might be able to put slope man on the screen. I think I have a picture somewhere. I mean, like
we're not. I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna ask Ben to explain. I'm not real sure how this became a big deal. It was, as a teacher, you go to like meetings where they try to give you ideas for what might teach kids math good and so forth. Slope man I picked up at one of those. He's somewhat useful for algebra, not even entirely that useful, but I threw him up on the board one day, and Ben just kind of fell in love. So I'm not sure why.
Well, it wasn't me really. It was more Kendall,
okay.
Who was on our 2nd episode. And me and Kendall and Dakota, we all enjoyed Slope Man. It's just been an interesting character for this class. If you Google Slope Man, you will get a picture of Mr. Slope Guy, which is almost the same thing, but it's not. The circles do not go at either side of the mouth. They go. There's one at the bottom because he's got a soul patch.
Soul patch or chin piercing, whichever your choice is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of like Gallon Man and.
But that's not even a man. That's
it's like just a bunch of random letters.
Yeah. A lot of people call it the Big G, and I can see that.
I'm the Big G. So.
He is at least a medium size.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how that's a man though. I mean,
I'm not familiar with Gallon. I mean, I kind of know of him, but we've never officially met.
Is Gallon Man used like outside of here?
Yes, I use Gallon Man daily.
I guess if you're working at a gas station.
But I mean, like,
how many gallons?
But I mean, like, outside of this area is what I mean.
I think so. I think that's another one of those teacher things that some teacher was like, hey, if I make a bunch of weird letters, it might look like a man, and it'll help kids remember stuff.
Oh, Jesus Christ. This is going to happen like 30 times.
The good news is you guys have more of those, a couple more of those to look forward to.
We got
like
amazing. 40 minutes.
Y'all's eardrums will be blessed.
Okay. That probably sounds even worse coming through a recording.
Sorry.
It's like a bad recording of a bad recording.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry to all the people wearing earbuds out there.
There are a lot of the teachers that they'll be talking and the bell will come on and they almost seem offended and surprised that the bell came on.
Like they should do it at the same time every day.
Like,
wait, they do.
Yeah, exactly. Like what do you call it? The lady who was in gym there for a little while for a couple
student
weeks.
teacher.
Yeah. She would anytime she was talking to us, the bell would come on and she would be like, oh, I can't.
She would get so offended by that. Like,
well, she was young. She'll figure out that being offended is no place in public education. You just get over it.
Yeah,
that's just gonna happen
for sure.
That's the time right there. I don't know if you can really see that. It's almost at 20.
We're good.
Now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So actually, this episode is going to be a little bit shorter because Mr. Shortt decided to that if we were going to do it, we probably needed to do 30 or 45 minutes rather than an hour or so like we normally do. So, I mean, well, I think that's reasonable. So,
it's understandable.
I'm not even sure why I decided that. That's what I decided.
It's understandable.
While Graham is on, I wanted to tell the story of Graham's son, the Instagram account that I have for a little while. Here we go.
That's right.
So I had an Instagram account for a little while. It was last semester I made it. Everybody calls Graham a dad because, I mean, a lot of the time he'll dress like a dad. Mr. Shortt has a good story about this. But so with Graham's son, Graham was getting annoyed that I was calling him a dad. And I made an Instagram account called Graham's Son and followed him and just started posting pictures of him. And people started sending in pictures, and then it got bigger from there. And then I guess his dad followed me, and I didn't initially realize it was his dad. But his dad owns a company around here, and I was like, oh, we're moving up, and I sent it to somebody, and they were like, oh, that's Graham's dad. and I was like, okay, maybe he's getting a kick out of it because he hadn't said anything.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then Graham's mom comments on one of my posts and says, who owns this account? And I just deleted it right there.
Should respond with your mom.
Then a couple weeks later, probably a couple months later, actually, it was more recently, I recreated Graham's Son, and I started doing it again. And then Graham's mom, I had blocked Graham's parents and everything. Graham's mom checked his phone and found the account and had us take it down. So we did that.
Yeah, mom, she wasn't real happy about it. She found mine and Ben's messages about how Ben said he recreated it, and where he said that he had blocked them, and she felt offended that I was hiding that from her, which I understand. I completely understand that. And
so if you're recapping there, it's that what we found was that moms love their kids and also don't want them to lie to them.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you didn't know that, teenagers, write that down somewhere.
So the story that you have about Graham's dad clothing.
It's kind of. I wish I could. Maybe one of these two can remember the exact outfit because that would be more beneficial.
It was like this burgundy, like kind of high collared sweatshirt, and then we I think we were both probably wearing jeans.
Yes.
I'd say. And
I was wearing cowboy boots.
You were wearing cowboy boots?
Yes.
Well, I wasn't wearing cowboy boots. I didn't go quite that far.
I was wearing, some good jeans, and I had me a pullover on, and
well, aside from the
barrels.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Aside from the boots.
Yeah. So Ben was getting on the gram about dressing like a dad as he was very actively dressed like a dad.
Yes.
And so I found the humor in that.
Well, it wasn't even that I was also dressed like a dad. It was that I was dressed exactly the
same.
That's
true. Good point. Like they literally had the same thing on, and I was like,
I said that, and Mr. Shortt goes, Ben, stand up, and I was like, am I in trouble or something? I stood up, and he was like, Graham, stand up. You guys are wearing the exact same thing today.
Now sit back down and enjoy your head start on being a dad. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of the reason was I was having to wear, clothes for golf and stuff, and I believe that's where the dad thing started at, I told Ben I was on the golf team, and he was like, oh, that's a dad thing to do right there, and I was like, sure is.
Like golf, grilling, a lot of that, that's just like
man, I love to grill me a good burger.
Like they get a nap while the kids are asleep, you know what I'm saying? That's right, dude.
Yeah, Mr. Shortt, do you enjoy grilling? And
well, as much as the next guy. I used to play golf a lot, but you have kids, and then you take care of kids, and one day you wake up and you're playing Barbie dolls for hours on the floor. And such is life.
Yeah. Mr. Shortt took us out to the theater because we all passed our standardized test this year, and he brought his daughter, and I told him that was a mistake and that she was going to be corrupted by our class. Last semester we had Mr. Shortt's worst class that he had ever had.
Yeah, I can 100% say that, and there's no by the way, the worst behaved class of all time, not the worst academic class of all time. That's another story completely.
I mean, for a little while, I feel like I was okay with you.
You were,
because I sat up front and Dakota and Kendall sat in the back and on the other side of the room. So I was okay, I was good. And this side of the room for the most part was fine.
Sure.
But then Dakota and Jake and Kendall got moved up next to me, and so then chaos ensued.
So if you're ever looking for where Ben's life went wrong, that's where it went wrong.
Well, it didn't necessarily go wrong there. Just Mr. Shortt realized that it had already gone wrong there.
Tried to make a move, and it backfired. It was something. That class though, classes are funny, or at least to me they are, because you're always close to having a really good class it's always teeters the line of awesome to like driving you crazy as a teacher, at least in my opinion, because I want some talking, I want some joking. I mean, because algebra is not terribly interesting in and of itself, believe it or not.
I think it is.
Graham, on the other hand, like goes home and thinks about slope intercept form.
I
do. But for the rest of America, you know, you need some interactions, but you have to know when to stop. And that 4th block class, they didn't. Yeah. So it was Harriet.
Mr. Shortt, I really do think he was a good sport for putting up with us, you know. And I got a little bit rowdy myself, honestly. Right. Sometimes, like Mr. Shortt, he told me, he looked at me one time and was like, we're about to not be friends. And I was like, oh,
it's kind of like code word for you're about to get in trouble. Tell them about the time you got sent in the hallway. I don't know. I know Graham's, but I distinctly remember the one time Graham got sent in the hallway. I mean, you don't have to tell the actual thing that you said, but like,
I can't remember what I said.
I remember.
Graham turned around to like Jake or somebody and just goes, "Did you just say you would pee in his butt?"
That's
and Mr. Shortt just like points at the door.
Out.
Graham walks outside. He has like the worst look on his face. He's sitting there like looking in the window.
I was so scared the principal was going to walk by. I was like, oh no. And then he's going to ask me what I'm doing out here, and then I'm going to have to tell him, and it's going to be awkward.
Dakota got sent out in the hallway pretty early on last semester. And
often. Early and often.
Then Jake did, so Mr. Shortt just kind of felt the need to send me and Kendall out for very minute things
just
that we did.
Just to see what it was like. That's true.
Like, I don't even know what it was that I did. But,
I honestly can't remember.
But
That's true.
I don't even think I really did anything, though. And then Kendall didn't do anything either. But we both got kicked out. The 4th block got so bad, he kicked so many people out that he had put a paper beard on the door so that when people would look back in the door, they just have this beard.
Did y'all ever understand the reasoning for that beard? I don't know that
I thought it was just for, when people
there's an employee here that has a very long, kind of grimy looking beard that kind of wanders, and Coach Blevins and I think we kind of giggle sometimes about just general appearance. I don't know, that's kind of mean, I guess, but like he was constantly back in that semester looking in the door to check on kids, and so we would just kind of like look up from what we were doing and just see this like grimy looking beard, like, oh! And so Blevins somehow messes around on the copier and prints off a grimy looking beard and throws it on the window, so no matter who was at the door, it looked like this employee looking in the door. So it's kind of an inside joke. I guess it's not now, but
that's funny.
Yeah,
I didn't understand that.
Yeah, so that was.
I think Graham and I both know who you're talking
about.
Yeah. But. Yeah. I mean, I thought you just put it up there for the people when you kicked them out because you kicked so many people out.
There was a few, that's for sure.
So, I have a few left. Well, actually, there was one time that I wanted to tell about from 4th block. There's a kid in our class, and he's from Pound, which is a more rural area of our area, almost, I would say. That's actually where Mr. Shortt's from, and but he's from there, but he sounds like he's from Louisiana. And
noted. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and just checking for the principal casual.
No, I was seeing one time that the bell was getting ready to ring.
We should be finishing up here soon. We're about at 30 minutes.
Prepare yourself. The bell's going to ring.
But yeah, there was one time, our desks, they're connected to the chair, and there's a pole on one side.
Oh, gosh.
Well, he fell completely out of his desk onto his face on the side that the pole is on. I don't know how he managed it. He falls on his face and then yells a swear, and Mr. Shortt just kind of looks at him and laughs, and he's like, okay, I think I'll give you a pass.
I'll pass.
Swear on that because that was funny.
If you unathletically somehow fall out of your chair just because you're sitting there, you get a pass. That's written somewhere.
We were like taking a test or something too. It wasn't even like just he was getting rowdy and fell. We were like taking a test,
sitting around,
fell.
Yep.
All that to see.
That's good. I forgot about that. That was a good time.
There was one time as well. We were doing IXLs, and he was telling certain people, you can stop, depending upon how far they were and how many questions they had answered. And, he didn't say anything to him. And he goes, what? But I tried so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. I giggled too.
Yeah. And so that happened, and that was hilarious. And we all got to quit just because
we did. We shut it down right then and there because it was out of control after that.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the time in fourth block last semester, Mr. Shortt would be going over some notes or something, and then he would, the class would just start talking, and he would give us just papers on the thing that we hadn't finished going over yet, and we'd do them.
I think that's good teaching. That's actually not. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what the appropriate thing to do is.
None of it was graded, and I realized this probably
Very little's graded.
halfway through the semester. I remember Kendall once saying, "This isn't graded. It doesn't matter." And Kendall can't whisper. So, and you were like, "Whoever said this isn't graded, yes, it is."
I think that was the only one I graded was that particular day. And
that particular.
If it wasn't on Google Classroom after that, I probably wasn't grading it. So
yeah,
That was a good day.
good time. Let's have ball.
Yeah, the fourth block was pretty great.
It was for you all.
Yeah, there was one day that Mr. Shortt, he sat down. He hadn't even given us any paper. He just sat down and like rolled up his pant leg and then just like sat there, and he was just like, "I give up. I can't."
Just one.
I don't
From
even
Mr.
know.
Pants to Mr. Shortt.
That's true. It's like LL Cool J. Nobody really knows who that is at this point, but he used to wear one pant leg 3/4 of the way up. I don't know why he did. He just did. But
Then Mr. Ports, then,
Mr. Shortt on the first day that we met him was telling us, "My name is Mr. Shortt, not Mr. Shorts. I know I'm wearing shorts, but
right.
and so he was either Mr. Shorts or Mr. Pants for
Depending
a
on
long
what
time.
day it was or how warm it was outside.
Yeah.
Dakota eventually took to calling him Mr. Uncle Stepdad, and that stuck pretty well.
So, yeah, it has. Unfortunately, it's like we were talking yesterday amongst my adult friends how like when we were growing up, if you got a nickname that you didn't want, like what was the appropriate way to respond to that? And I'm still not real sure what it is, but like because if you overreact, of course it's going to stick.
Yeah.
Like everybody's like, "Yep, that's the one."
Yeah.
But like if you underreact, like whatever, I don't care, then that's probably going to stick too. So somewhere in between. But with Mr. Uncle Stepdad, I was just kind of like. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, like, all right.
Dakota, when he first got moved to the front, was like, "Can we call you Dad?" And you were like, "No, please." God.
Right, yes.
And then he goes, "Can we call you Mr. Dad? Can we call you Mr. Stepdad?" And it just kind of
and then Uncle slid in somehow. Yeah.
Kendall threw in the uncle. And
Yeah.
Kendall was like, "What about Mr. Uncle?" And then
Mr. Uncle.
Dakota goes, "What about Mr. Uncle Stepdad?"
Mr. Uncle Stepdad, and that kind of stuck for a while. And I remember it actually started catching on like the first day that we started using it, because I remember someone in the back of the class raised their hand. You didn't really see him, and Mr. Uncle Stepdad. Hey,
I was like, there's still a few of the contingent from the fourth block OGs that still will call me that, like, and I don't even have them in class anymore, and I'm like, then I just kind of roll my eyes and just act like I didn't hear him.
There was one time we were walking out with Mr. Shortt at the end of the day, and he turned to Kendall after he called him Mr. Uncle Stepdad, and he goes,
That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the other bit.
yeah.
That's ear herpes right there.
He says, "I sometimes feel the need to call you Mr. Nephew Stepson."
That's true.
or something."
And I had to think about it for a pretty good while to figure out what the yang was to the yin there. That, I don't know, but I got it.
Yeah, and then my favorite part about this semester has been, shaking Mr. Short's hand.
That's true.
That's been a good time, brethren.
Graham kind of has this.
Firm handshake.
He's had this
Oh, yeah.
like preacher vibe for this whole semester.
Yes.
He's been calling everybody brother and shaking people's hands and brethren.
Because they mean a lot too. sometimes.
Amen.
Yeah.
See, he did.
We did a Kahoot towards the end of the year, and we were all setting our nicknames, and normally we set them to dumb stuff, but Mr. Shortt wanted to know how far we were along as far as our education. So
It's one of those days.
So we were setting our actual names, and then he was going over one question, and he clicks to the board, and brethren was number one. He was like, "Who's brethren?" And he just looks to the back of the class, and Graham's just sitting there like, "Yeah,
Amen." I think he said amen.
Amen.
amen." Yeah. Brethren.
Brethren.
There's a guy in our class whose real name is Michael, but we all refer to him as Mickey P.
Sometimes it slips out for me too. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think he should be called Mickey P because we have another Michael in the class.
Noted.
So yeah, I mean, he's been Mickey P for like a while, and I think to Mr. Short's class he became Mickey P when he went to go put up his calculator last semester, and Dakota and us were, we were all sitting over here, and we just slowly started Mickey P, Mickey
Slow
P.
change.
Yeah.
It's a good time. It's when he had long hair.
Yeah. Yeah, that was he's cut his hair. He's slowly adjusting to normal society.
Yeah, he is. He's going to turn out all right. I kind of like Mickey P actually quite a bit.
I need to get a haircut here soon. Mine's pretty bad.
Didn't he, like, on the first day of school, like, whenever you all were doing a paper, he wrote, like, all of his work out in a paragraph or something?
He overdoes stuff at times. Yeah, he's an overachiever. We're not used to having overachievers in public school, so when we get one, it's kind of like, what's wrong with you? But,
yeah, I mean, yeah. He's a little out there, but he's cool.
We like him.
Yeah, I like Mickey P. So this is a good segue into the Pledge of Allegiance every day. Our school is one of few in the United States that still feels the need to do the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning, and it's gotten progressively worse over the semester.
Yeah.
Mickey P kind of says it all in one breath. Like he'll stand up and he'll go, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, individual,
Amen.
And that's the whole thing. And everybody else takes like 5 more seconds after he's done to finish the whole thing.
Yep. And then it's an automated, much like the bell, it's an automated recording of our principal that says it at one cadence.
Recording? Yeah, it's automated.
Yeah. And so it's the same cadence every day, but like it's Mickey P's going at 75 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You got a few going at 40 and some going at 10, and it's so loud that you can't hear the automated version. So it's like the highlight or the low light of it was on Memorial Day as we were honoring our veterans, trying to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and I was just like shaking my head, I'm sorry, veterans, we love you.
The best Pledge of Allegiance we ever got in was the one on SOL Day when
yes.
Jake stood up and like stomped out of his seat and goes, "Time to get our freedom on," and then like smacked his chest, and he's like,
knee slap.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's been knee slapping.
At one point, I put a limit on the knee slaps, and that was another bad like classroom management decision, because then they started hoarding them till certain points in the day, and it was just like
because like Tyler, he'll just sit in the back of the class sometimes like.
And just do them,
And it's like, bro, calm down.
Easy killer.
Yeah. And Tyler plays a lot of Fortnite.
Yeah, so he does.
I mean, I think he plays a lot of Fortnite. We need to get Shortt Night.
Shortt Night. Yeah, if anybody can make a game, just hit us up.
Me and Ben's discussed this future video game of my life that is maybe the most uninteresting game in the history of Earth. I'm not even sure we would sell to like my parents. Like I wouldn't even buy it. Like it's like, what do? You set your alarm clock and you drive a school bus. And
no, it's like fighting off the kids on the school.
Right, it turns into like
riding the battle bus to school.
Zombies.
Hey, sit down. Sit down.
Hey, kid! I just told her to sit down. Sit down again. What do you think changed in the last 5 seconds? They call me bus driver, which is one of the highlights of my life.
Bus driver.
I'm glad I got a 4-year college degree to be referred to as bus driver.
Bus driver.
It's whatever though.
Mr. Bus driver.
Well, it's not like you got the degree in driving a bus.
I wish they had. I wish they offered a degree in driving
awesome.
a bus.
Yeah.
I feel like that would take very long, but it's funny.
Yeah. So a thing from our class that I hadn't brought up, the SNIB story.
Oh yeah.
So there's a certain kind of girl. What's that term for the subject where you get the SNIBs?
The official term is a graphical quadratic, but it's in the SOL test we're looking for zeros or roots or solutions. I can't believe we just actually talked about math.
Yeah.
Like if anybody's still hanging on at this point, they all just turned it off.
Yeah.
Like he's talking about math now. So
Anyway,
but for the story's sake, it comes down and we're looking for where it crosses a line, and so. I think I can't remember how I said it, but I was just again trying to say dumb stuff to make math interesting.
It comes down. Some of them. It's like a U shape comes down from the top of the graph, and you're seeing where it hits the x-axis. And normally it hits it twice, but sometimes it won't hit it, and you can't tell. So you zoom in. He goes. Sometimes it looks like it barely snibs it, and then he wrote the word snib on the board.
Yeah, and then I go on tangents sometimes, which I think is probably what makes class interesting. But snib, and then we decided it might be snibbed with an apostrophe and a D on the end.
And then Mickey P wrote snibber on the board.
Which sounds racial.
It kind of does. We didn't mean for it to, though.
Another interesting thing about SNIB is my grandmother was Mr. Shortt's 4th grade math teacher, I believe,
that's awesome.
and or English. But I was at her house one day, and we were talking about him, and I was like, he was talking the other day, and he used the word snib. And she just looked at me with the most disappointed look on her face and goes,
I failed, I think, was what she thought in her mind.
Yeah, like...
Ben's grandmother's like what you think, what most of us, or at least people my age, think of when they think of teacher. Like, if I see her in the grocery store, I instantly, like, stand straighter and try to use bigger words just to, like, I don't know why you try to impress your fourth grade teacher. Like, you're still in fourth grade, but, like, she's somebody you wouldn't want to disappoint.
The gym teacher, which Mr. Shortt's pretty good friends with, he also had her, and he told me that she threw an eraser at one of his friends at one point from the
probably deserved it.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was, or I would have asked her, but I never got the chance to. All right, so just to get in our last few topics. So I think the last one we've got is K-Love, and that will take the final 5 minutes.
Probably, yeah.
So as stated, Mr. Shortt drives a bus.
That's true.
And I noticed on the first day that the worst radio station from this area was playing.
In Ben's opinion.
And it is called K-Love. It's the contemporary Christian radio station of this area. And it is...
It's the best.
It's pretty terrible. Graham, do you actually like K-Love? Or
yes.
No?
So in your face, Ben.
See, I don't like K-Love. And I'm more of like a classic rock or like some modern rap type guy. I actually burned Mr. Shortt a copy of Stoney as well as Beer Bongs and Bentleys.
That's true. I still have both. Neither one of them have been.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think I played about a minute of Stoney back, and I was like, I think there was a swear within the first 1 second. I was like, hey.
The first song, Broken Whiskey Glass, isn't very good unless you know Post Malone.
Okay.
But Beer Bongs and Bentleys is a little bit easier to get into. I gave him both copies of those after it ended the semester. Anyway, K-Love, it has just been an experience. We listen to the morning show almost every morning.
We do.
There's normally Skip, Amy, and Cankle Fritz, at least at the beginning of the semester.
Sure. Our boy Kank, we're still not real sure it's a conspiracy.
I thought that there were only, or I thought there were either only 2 people or only 2 of the 3 talked. But actually, Skip and Cankle Fritz just sound strikingly similar.
They do. That's true.
So it's just hard to differentiate them. I eventually started realizing what the difference was. And, around this time also, Hard Love was playing almost every day. This was the worst song.
Ben and I agree. Yeah, Ben and I agree on that.
Yeah, and so with Hard Love playing and everything, and then eventually one day Cankle Fritz isn't there, and I asked Mr. Shortt after about a week of him being gone. I was like, "Oh, what's going on with Cankle Fritz?" I don't know. He's been gone for a little while. Well,
sabbatical.
A week turned into a month, and Cankle Fritz hasn't been back, and so he was either let go or something from K-Love, but for whatever reason, after he was let go, Hard Love stopped playing. So
he took it with him.
Yeah, so we're thinking that he was probably the one behind
pressing the play button
every day.
Noted. Twice a day.
Yeah,
it was actively played. On K-Love.
All the time.
A lot.
That was on his playlist.
His Spotify playlist.
He was like, I'm gonna touch the Hard Love button again. It shows up once in a while, but it's kind of like early in the morning as I'm going to get the bus
when nobody is awake.
I think they've got like a Hard Love quota potentially that they have to meet, and like
or
they meet it at 4 a.m.
will like sue them.
That's right.
How they
I want my job back.
Yeah,
they play it 3 times in a row.
Yeah, Cankle Fritz will start riding at the door.
K-Love's fun. It's good if you like K-Love.
If you like contemporary Christian music, it's not all the worst music ever, but most of it is. And so, I gave him Stoney and Beer Bongs and Bentleys both with the just slight hope that one day he will play them on the bus.
He would listen to cool music.
So that's close to a wrap. We're at 43:50. Is there anything else we need to discuss?
I don't know. I feel like as soon as we press whatever the stop button version is here, we'll immediately think of something else we should have discussed. But that's.
I think that should be a wrap. All right, so like and subscribe, dislike, unsubscribe, whatever you want to do. Graham, Mr. Shortt, do you have anything else to say?
It's every day, bro.
It's keep dabbing on them haters,
and
so forth. Somebody told me that one time. I don't know.